I want to thank Independent Ireland for bringing forward this motion here this evening. I think it's always important that we take opportunities to discuss child welfare and child protection issues, and that we ensure that those responsible for ensuring children in our state are safe, are looked after and are cared for properly and adequately, that all of those regulations that exist are upheld. There are a number of issues I want to speak to in addressing this motion here this evening. The first is the allocation of social workers, and we know for a long time now there has been consistent criticism from judges, case after case, where children are not allocated a social worker. And with the reforms that are now underway, I have heard from social care workers who have come to me concerned that they are going to be given roles and cases that are for a social worker. And it appears to me that because we have such a serious shortage of social workers, that there is an attempt now being made to allocate children to other professionals that are not social workers to try to manage in terms of and very much deal with the lack of social workers, which has been an issue now for some time. And I note in a recent response to me, Tusla have said that all children and young people will continue to be overseen by social work management. I would be concerned as regards what it means overseen. We obviously have a serious shortage of social workers, and the idea that they would have some oversight mechanism or responsibility within Tusla is concerning when we don't have enough of them on the ground in the first place. And that isn't to take away from the social care workers and the social workers and all professionals in that sector, but social care workers are concerned that they are going to be given cases that should be given to a social worker, cases that they are not qualified to deal with, and they have raised that very issue. It needs to be looked at, and we need to look at the reforms that Tusla are carrying and moving ahead with to ensure that they are going to make the service that exists better, and it needs to be better. But it is not acceptable if we have a situation where children are being allocated to other professional grades and not to a social worker. It's not acceptable, and if that is the case and that is the plan, then it cannot proceed as that. And when I was looking at the number of children that are waiting to be allocated to social worker and the number of children allocated to other professional grades instead, it reminded me very much of the HICWA report that was carried out, published last year into Dublin North City, Tusla. And this is a report I have read into the record a number of findings of it a number of times. They found poor governance and oversight at all management levels and government systems risks identified during their inspection, and that had not been addressed when they came back for a second inspection. And we have to remember the impact of not allocating social workers in a timely manner. And again, I cite that example I've cited here a number of times. One of the implications of that, as identified in that HICWA inspection report, was a child with a disability who was non-verbal, awaiting completion of a preliminary inquiry and safety planning for over 2 months. Waiting for safety planning, a non-verbal young person, for over 2 months. And the worst of that entire report that HICWA published was the fact that the service itself, in their questionnaire they returned ahead of that second inspection, said they were compliant in almost every area. And when the second inspection was carried out, it was found they were actually compliant in very few of them, but they had misled them in terms of that questionnaire. There were really, really serious findings in that report, and I think if we're looking now at a mechanism where you don't have to have the qualification of a social worker when we already have serious issues in terms of oversight and governance, that needs to be looked at again. We've had a recent situation, particularly in the southeast and the east of the state, in terms of therapies for children and play therapy in particular. Tusla had attempted to pull vital therapies for children in Carlow, Kilkenny and South Tipperary in particular. They were due to be withdrawn at the end of this month. Foster care has put up a fight in those counties and a temporary resolution has been found. A similar issue is ongoing in Waterford. Now, the idea that you would take away therapies, vital therapies for children in care, particularly in the care of foster carers where they rely on those therapies and those supports for the child in their care, is just incredible in this day and age that that will be sought to do, and we need to see a similar resolution for Waterford, so they don't have to battle as they had to in Carlow, Kilkenny and South Tipperary. I want to move then to the special emergency arrangements. There should not be a single child in 2026 in this state in an unregulated and uninspected setting of any way, shape or form. It shouldn't happen, and the reason it's happening is we haven't built capacity in terms of residential care and special care in the state. And I note from your amendment to this motion it says begin to build capacity. That needs to be done, and it needs to be ramped up as quickly as possible. We cannot have children in unregulated, uninspected settings, and it is happening all of the time, and Tusla appear to be more and more reliant on this. And we also know, and it's been referenced earlier, that Tusla have referred 5 of the providers to the Garda National Vetting Bureau in terms of concerns over Garda vetting. So the idea that these settings, Garda vetting isn't even checked as a basic is really, really concerning, and we need to see a ramp up in investment. And I think that's where the frustration grows in terms of, I think sometimes it's too easy to blame Tusla, and I think it's too easy to point the finger at Tusla. We have a department and we have a minister that I believe needs to step up an awful lot more in terms of children in care. The children that are in the care of the state are the responsibility of all of us, and everybody plays a role when it comes to child protection and child welfare, from childcare settings to our schools to the workplace. It is not just Tusla. We all have a responsibility, and I think the department and the minister need to step up, particularly when it comes to residential places, capacity and special care. I've raised special care with you many times. We know 15 of the 26 beds are open today. There has been an ongoing and consistent issue in terms of staffing special care beds. It is a challenging environment, of that there is no doubt, but we have judges that are concerned and are clearly saying to young people, you have to go to special care, and there is no beds there for them. And this is for children where there is in some cases a threat to their life, and we have no bed for them. And we have a number of idle beds in the state. It's not acceptable. And whatever means necessary to get those beds staffed and to get those beds open need to be undertaken. In relation to your own amendment, Minister, I noted as well you made the point in terms of an increasing number of foster parents. And again, I've raised foster carers and parents with you many, many times. The number from the figures I have from Tusla are falling. You referenced 223 new foster carers came in 2025, but you didn't say that 250 the same year had actually ceased fostering. And of course, foster carers cease fostering for a number of reasons, but the number of foster carers is falling. In 2024 we had 3,809. Last year we had 3,782. And if you look at every year since 2019, the numbers are falling. In 2019 we had 4,130. We have more demand, more need, and yet we have a falling number of foster carers at a time when we need more of them. The single best place, setting, environment for a child who is in the state of the care of the state is with a foster family. It is the place where they will be, perhaps for the first time in their lives, shown love and care, and unconditional love at that. We need to do an awful lot more to support our foster carers. And again, the fact that they have no state pension at the end of decades of providing that level of care. Some of them have supported hundreds of children. They get to pension age and they have no state pension. It is so unacceptable, and we need to move on it as quickly as possible. But in those 3 areas in particular, in terms of special care, residential care and foster carers, we need to do a lot more. And I think there is an onus now on your department and you as Minister to step up, to be more hands-on and more involved in terms of supporting children who are in the care of this state, who are the responsibility of all of us and who are the responsibility of this government and this state. We need to do an awful lot more to support them, and we cannot constantly point the finger and blame Tusla all of the time. There is an entire department there, and it needs to do an awful lot more to support some of the most vulnerable children in our state. Thank you, Ciarán.
Thank you for watching. Please like and share.